Hey, what's going on, y'all? So with all these most recent updates that Call of Duty had, some of these guns have changed a lot and some of them haven't changed at all. So I wanted to bring y'all the top 5 close range metas and the top 5 long range metas that you can run right now for Warzone, Vondel, Park, and Ashika. When I talk to y'all about the guns, I'm gonna talk to y'all about the damage because I know that's the main thing, how much damage the gun does. But I'm gonna also talk about recoil and some other things because it all plays a part whether or not the gun will be good depending on recoil and other things like that, because you want to hit your shots to get the gunfight over with as quickly as possible, no matter how much damage the gun does. Now for reference, I'm going to be using the site sim.gg. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a site where you can go and build a weapon and it'll show you the damage profile of the gun, it'll show you the average TTK, and you can also compare different weapons. Now we're going to start out with the top 5 close range metas. Mine are the Lockman sub, the Lockman shroud, the ISO 45, the Vel 46, and the Vazn of 9K. Now when we get down to damage and TTK, if you play Vondel, most of your gunfights are going to be between 0 and 8 meters, and that's because you're going to be fighting in a lot of stairwells, you're going to be fighting in a lot of buildings. You don't really get into too many long range gunfights with your sub on that map. Now with that being said, here goes the damage profiles between 0 and 8 meters for the submachine guns. The Lockman shroud is the best, we'll talk about that later. We got the Lockman sub, and then the ISO 45, then the Vaz, and then the Vel 46. Now, if you're like me, you run around with your sub in your hand so you can move around the map faster. Every once in a while, somebody will jump out at you or come around a corner, and you'll get forced into a gunfight that's beyond 8 meters with your sub. And beyond 8 meters right now, the best sub is the Vaz, and then we got the Vel, the ISO, then the shroud, then the Lockman sub. Now, I know you don't get into a gunfight a lot of the times at 10 plus meters, but this stat still does matter because you do end up in fights beyond that 8 meters quite a bit if you run around with your sub in your hand. So the other things that I consider when I'm thinking about my top submachine gun is the overall speed of the gun, so things like sprint to fire, ADS, and reload time, and then also the fire rate of the gun and the max ammo capacity of the gun. Now for my submachine gun, I really don't worry about the muzzle velocity too much because like I said earlier, most of my fights happen close quarters, so like in stairwells or in buildings, and I'm rarely getting into those fights outside of 10 meters. Looking at this chart with the build that I have for these guns, the sprint to fire time is in favor of the Vaz, but the Vaz also has the slowest reload time, and the Vel has the fastest reload time, but remember it doesn't kill the fastest between 0 and 8 meters. So there are positive and negatives for each gun that you have to consider when you're trying to find the right SMG for you. Now considering all that, this is how I rank my top 5 SMGs. At number 5, I do have the Lockman shroud. Now I do understand that this is the fastest killing gun between 0 and 8 meters, but the fact that it's a burst fire gun just doesn't work well with me, especially if I'm playing trios and quads. The recoil on this gun is very controllable, it's really good. Like I said, it kills fast between 0 and 8 meters. The damage drop off is a little high, but not the worst. But if you're trying to fight more than a couple people and trying to burst fire this gun, it just doesn't work well with me. So that's why I have this at number 5. At number 4, we do have the Vaz. Now I know in my video I was talking about how the Vaz was always one of my favorite SMGs, which that is still true. Even though the Vaz has a decent TTK all around and it does have the fastest sprint to fire time, everything else is not that good on the gun. It has the slowest ADS time, it has the slowest reload time, and it has the second slowest fire rate, only second to the Lockman shroud. So overall, trying to fight in those gunfights and buildings between 3 or 4 people could make it a little bit difficult because of the reload time, the ADS time, and then I wish that fire rate could be a little bit better on the gun. All that factored in is the only reason that I have the Vaz at number 4. At number 3, we do have the Vel, aka the MP7. Now I do understand that the Vaz kills faster than this gun, but these are the reasons that I do have the Vel at number 3. For starters, it does come with a 50 round mag, which is perfect, especially if you're playing trios and quads. And it also has the fastest reload time of all the SMGs. So then you're able to get back into the fight a lot faster than you would with any of the other SMGs. And I do understand that it doesn't kill as fast as the Vaz, but it does have the second fastest ADS time and it has the best fire rate of all the SMGs. So I feel like that makes up for the lack of TTK that you get between the Vel and the Vaz. And this is just one of those guns that I've also always liked using. There's not a lot of recoil, it's easy to hit your shots, and it just feels a little bit better than the Vaz does when you're using it. At number 2, we do have the ISO 45. This is the gun that I used in my meta loadout video if y'all watched that. Only thing I would switch up on this build, I think I said it in that video, is I would take off the sight, maybe put a laser or ammo type. I really don't think you need a barrel on this gun. It already moves pretty quick without it, and when you add a barrel, it does add a little bit more recoil to the gun. Number 2 and number 1 is always so close for me just because I like different aspects of each gun. Only reason I'm putting this one at number 2 is because it does ADS a little bit slower and it has a little bit bit more recoil than the Lockman sub. Now, the pros to this gun is that it has a lot faster reload time. It has 45 bullets, and once you get past 8 meters, you're still going to be in good shape if you're using this submachine gun. At number 1, we do have the Lockman sub. This gun has been the best submachine gun for a long time. I'm not sure when they're going to nerf it, but for now, this is the meta SMG. Only thing different is that I added the mobile stock instead of the recoil stock. This helps with strafe speed and ADS speed. The gun's already fast. This just makes it feel a little bit faster, and you don't really have to worry about recoil on this gun. Only reason I got this gun at number 1 is because, like I said, most of your gunfights happen between 0 and 8 meters. Besides the TTK, the movement speed on this gun is good. The sprint to fire speed is good. The ADS speed is pretty good. The only problem is that the reload time is not the fastest. It only has 40 bullets, and once you get outside that 8 meters, the drop off is pretty bad for this weapon. But even with all that, this is still the number 1 sub just because that damage in TTK between 0 and 8 meters. So let's move on to my top 5 long range metas. Let's keep in mind these are metas for Vondel and Ashika. It has nothing to do with big map, because with big map, attachments are going to change, and so are some of the guns. So here goes my top 5 long range guns for Vondel and Ashika. I got the Tempest Razor back, the FR Advancer, the Kostov 762, the M13B, and the Chimera. Now, I purposely left off LMGs because for these maps, I like to move around quick. So I don't like to run LMGs because I don't want to sit there and wait for it to reload, and you just move so slow with those weapons. So there's quite a few things that you got to think about when you talk about a long range meta. The first thing we're going to talk about is the TTK. And for the range that I consider long range on Vondel and Ashika is between 30 and 50 meters. So starting at 30 meters, the Chimera is the best of these weapons as an average TTK weapon. That's just because they keep buffing the mid-range damage on it. Then it goes the FR Advancer, the Kostov 762, M13, and then the Tempest Razorback. But once you get to like 37 meters, the Chimera falls off pretty hard, and then you have the Advancer, the M13, Kostov, and then the Tempest Razorback. But it gets weird because in between 37 and 40 meters is okay, but once you get to 40 meters, the Advancer falls off, and then you got the M13, Chimera, the Advancer, the Kostov, and then the Tempest Razorback. And then beyond that, it pretty much falls in line as the same order. So there are a lot of other things to talk about when you consider a long range meta. This is where muzzle velocity and bullet velocity plays a huge impact, ammo capacity in some stage, ADS time, and then recoil. Recoil does matter when you're talking about weapons on Vondel and Ashika because you're usually fighting more than one person. So you really need to hit your shots, and you really can't afford to miss a lot of bullets. At number 5, I got the Chimera. Now this build that I'm showing y'all is not the build that I had on the chart. That build that I had on the chart was a long range build, but the muzzle velocity on the gun is so bad that it's really gonna make it hard to hit shots from range. I only had it on there because technically the damage on it is still pretty good at long range. But if I'm gonna use this gun, I'm gonna use it as medium range gun. I'm not gonna use it for a long range gun. So that's the only reason I got it at number 5. If you want to use it as a medium range gun, it's still one of my favorite weapons. It's still one of the best weapons to use. Recoil on the gun isn't bad. The damage mid range is insane as far as like the TTK goes. The reload time and everything else is pretty good at that range as well. The muzzle velocity is just not the best once you get past probably 30 to 35 meters. At number 4, we do have the Kostov 762. I'm putting this at number 4 for a couple reasons. The main reason is that it only comes with a 45 round mag, and the second reason is that I had to put a Sacred Thread muzzle on here for recoil instead of putting a silencer that will help bullet velocity and things like that. So this gun is decent at long range, but it's really only going to be effective at medium range if you want to control recoil. If you want more bullet velocity and you want more damage range, you're going to have to put one of the suppressors on there. But when you do that, the recoil on the gun is going to make it not worth it, especially since you only got a 40 round mag. The 40 round mag does reload pretty fast, but it's still 40 bullets rather than having 60 that you can get on most of the other guns. At number 3, it pains me to say this, but we're going to put the Tempest Razorback. Now, if y'all watch any of my videos, y'all know I usually run this as an AR if I'm using a sub. This is one of my favorite ARs to use right now, but the numbers don't lie on the gun. Damage and the damage range is not as good as the other ARs, but it has 0 recoil. This is why I like running this gun. I know I'm going to hit most of my shots that I shoot with the gun. Even though the damage isn't the best, you're going to hit more of your bullets with this gun because the recoil is pretty non-existent. But like I said, the damage on this gun isn't the best, so we did have to put it at number 3. At number 2, we got the M13B. Now, I know it says that the M13B has the best average TTK from 40 meters plus. It does a lot of damage. It has good bullet velocity, but for some reason, using this gun just makes you feel like you're shooting BBs at people. The fire rate on it is good. It's overall on paper a really good gun, but sometimes when you're in game, it doesn't feel like that. I don't really have a lot of bad things to say about this gun. The ADS is pretty quick. It reloads pretty quick. I did make a video on it. I do like using it, but sometimes I feel like I should be killing people faster than what I am with this gun. At number 1, we got the FR Advancer, I do believe that this is the best AR you could use right now for Vondel and the Sheikah. It does have a little bit more recoil than the Tempest Razorback, but it also hits a little bit harder. And I know on paper the M13, it says that it's better, but this gun definitely feels better in game as far as like how fast it's killing people. And that could be because the fire rate on this gun is a little bit faster than the M13. I'll be testing this gun out over the weekend and drop a video on it on Monday for y'all, just so I can really see if it's the best. I hope y'all did enjoy the meta loadout video. Like I said, this is my opinion on which guns are best to use right now in Vondel and the Sheikah. If you have a different gun or a different opinion, let me know in the description below. I appreciate y'all for being here. If y'all made it this far, please drop a sub to the channel if you're new here. Check the description for the links where I go live on Twitch and Kick, and drop a follow on those as well. It'd be greatly appreciated. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Thank y'all for being here. Much love. Peace.